Good morning and welcome to our class. Today we're going to be working on Chaturanga Dandasana. So we'll start out with some work on the shoulders and the wrists to get started. And then I'll show you a few different ways that you can strengthen and start working with the pose, and we can go from there. So I hope you enjoy the class, and I hope it helps in your Chaturanga Dandasana practice. And let's get started. All right, so we'll start out, just find a place where you can sit on your mat or on your space. And close your eyes, and we'll take a few deep breaths here. And when you're taking these deep breaths, keeping your eyes closed, you're breathing through the nose. And you're looking at any tension that is built up in the eyes, the ears, and the throat, and release those. So with every inhale, you soften the lens of the eye. Exhale. Then inhale, soften the ears, the inner ears. And then with the last inhale, soften the throat. And then go ahead and open your eyes. So with our practice today of Chaturanga, we'll try to keep this quality of the eyes, the ears, and the throat. So everything that we do in this practice, we'll make sure that it doesn't build any tension in the eyes, ears, or throat. So let's take a look at Chaturanga, and to get started, we'll work on the hands, wrists, and shoulders a little bit. So I'll also link other videos that I have that explain in more detail some of the things that we'll do today, and also a video that from a class with Ramanand where he explains a little bit on how to go into Chaturanga Dandasana. So those are linked in the description below for you, but we'll start our practice now. Okay, so first, what I'll do here is I'll grab 2 blocks. Here we go. Okay, so I'm gonna have 2 blocks handy and the belt. Okay, and what I'm gonna do is I'm going to work on my hands here. So I put the belt around my arms here so that the arms are shoulder widths apart. So here it's not shoulder widths apart. There's not shoulder widths apart. Here we have the arms shoulder widths apart. Okay, and I'm going to start out using one of my blocks. And the easiest way maybe for me to show you it with this angle. Okay. So we're going to start getting the shoulders ready for Chaturanga. Okay, so place the block there on the mat and the belt around your arms, and then come over to the lower arms here and sit back on your mat so that you can rest in child's pose like this. Right? And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to first lift my pinky, and I'm going to lift the pinky and keep the knuckle of the pinky on the mat and keep all of the knuckles of my hand on the mat. So I'm just lifting the pinky and then setting the pinky down. So lifting the pinky, finger, and then bringing it down. Okay, so we'll do that with all of the fingers. So here, placing the hands around the block like this. Okay, and then press all of these knuckles of the fingers into the mat. So doing that, and then bring the knees apart a little bit so that you can come back into this baby pose, happy baby, or not happy baby, but child's pose. Okay, so first pose that we'll do Make sure all the fingers are down in contact with the mat. Lift the pinky. Keep the knuckle of the pinky in contact with the mat and come down into child's pose. Inhale, exhale, come back up. Put the pinky down and lift the ring finger. So again, lift the ring finger, and then we have this, we extend the other fingers. Okay, so stretch the other fingers, make sure that they're on the mat. Only lift the ring finger. Keep the knuckle of the ring finger in contact with the mat and come back down. Inhale, exhale, come up. Same thing with the middle finger. Lift the middle finger. Keep all the other fingers, knuckles, fingers extended, lengthened, and in contact with the mat. Go ahead and come back. And up, and then same thing with the index. So bring the index finger up, all the other fingers in contact with the mat. Come back, inhale, exhale, come back. Inhale, exhale, come up. And then we'll do the same thing with the thumb here. We'll lift just the thumb. The palm wants to come up here. Make sure the palm is in contact with the mat and just lift the thumb. So the knuckle of the thumb here stays in contact with the mat. Okay? So fingers in contact with the mat, lift the thumb and come back onto child's pose. Inhale, exhale, come up. Okay, come up, remove the belt. And then take a few breaths here where we do the same thing. Close your eyes. Inhale, soften the eyes. Soften the lens around the eye. Then soften the ears, the inner ears. Make sure that we're not building any tension in the ear. And then go ahead and do the same thing with the throat. Really reducing any pressure here on this occipital area of the brain, right on top, right where the spine ends up here. So we reduce any tension in the ears and also remove it from the back of the head, and then release the throat. Okay, so step 2 of this will be to find a wall and place that mat against the wall here. There we go. Okay, so I have my mat against the wall, and I'll bring the computer closer so that you can see. Okay, so here what I'll do is I'll place my blocks like this. So blocks are on this little ledge. If you don't have that, you can, sometimes they stick on the wall by themselves like this if the mat's pretty sticky. So find a way to get a little angle to your blocks. And so I'll come here and I will start out with my hands on the block. So hands on the block here, and see how this feel, how the flexibility in your hands is working. And after maybe 30 seconds, go ahead and go into your downward dog here. Hands up on the block. So release any tension in the hands, and then press the knuckles, these knuckles of the hand into the block. So make sure that we're not bending the fingers here, and just checking where there's a little bit of tightness in the wrists or in the hands. So extend the fingers up, and then exhale, come back down. So we'll do the same thing here with the hands facing out. And these blocks should make it so that your hands are shoulder, right underneath the shoulder. So shoulder width apart. Okay, so hands facing out here. And then again, take a deep breath here with your nose instead of through the mouth, and make sure that you remove any tension in the eye, the ears, the throat, and the back of the head. So inhale, as you exhale, come up into downward dog. And then go ahead and inhale, exhale, come out. Then we'll move both hands so that the fingers are pointing in here and press the palms into the blocks. And see how that feels on the hand. And then inhale, exhale, come up into a downward dog. Keep the arms very straight and work on the wrists and the palms there. And the fingers, extend the fingers out. Inhale, exhale, come out after 2 or 3 breaths. And then the last one that we'll do is we'll turn the hand so the fingers point down. So this one, usually the hand wants to spin out. So what you can do here is you can use the pinky to hook onto the edge of your block there so that your hand won't slip out as you're doing this. So bring the pinky and check how, if there's tightness, if there's any gripping in your wrists or in the hands. And then take a few breaths here. If it's really intense and you're getting a nice deep stretch here, make sure you take a few deep breaths and release any tension that may be accumulating in the eyes, the ears, and the throat. And maybe one hand is different than the other. So you can make, if your right hand is tighter, send a few breaths there. Make sure that if you can, bring that muscle closer to the bone of your hand, of your wrist. Make the wrists very narrow, palms wide. And then when you're ready, inhale as you exhale without any tension in the eyes, ears, or throat. Come up into downward dog. And make the wrists narrow, palms wide. And work on the hands. And then go ahead and take an inhale. On the exhale, come out. And that was a nice way to start working the hands. So here it's not a good idea to shake the hands or anything. Just set the hands down and then feel the sensation in the wrists and in the hand. And you can repeat this one more time if you would like to. So, okay, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to grab the block here. So just one this time. And I'm going to do the same thing where I place this belt around my elbows. And I'm going to place the hands here around the block. Okay, and what I'm going to do is come up to a downward dog. So come up to a downward dog, so you come down. So if you don't make it to a full downward dog, that's fine. So come up into a downward dog on your lower arms there, on your forearms. And we'll do about maybe 5 of these. So one. So here I want the wrist, grounded onto the mat, and then you extend the fingers out so that the fingers aren't shortening. So lengthen the fingers. Press the hands onto the mat. Okay, and we'll do 5 of these. So here we go. Extend the fingers, and then you really can sense the shoulders, the effect on the shoulders. Down into a downward dog or downward dog with bent knees. And 2 more. Again, releasing any tension in the eyes, the ears, and the throat. Okay. All right. So now you can rest in child's pose for a few breaths, or you can go ahead and go on to your full downward dog. Lengthening through the fingers, arms straight. Okay, and then knees down and rest in child's pose for a few breaths. Okay. Okay, so we worked on opening the shoulders with the hands and the arms a little bit. So now we'll start looking at this Chaturanga Dandasana pose. So what I want to do to build strength, if it's difficult to go out on the ground and do this, and I would do this anyway, I think it's a really great exercise to learn the little micro movements, is if you have, I'll show you here. So I come here to this prop and I place my hands so that they are facing out, okay? And when I'm working on Chaturanga here, I don't want to arch my back and I don't want to over tuck. So I want to keep this strength here. And I'll show you how to do that. But we'll keep, from rotating the hips out or tucking too much. So I want to keep this neutral form here. And I have the sense that my chest is lifting, so the front is lifting, and the back is lengthening also, extending through the heel. So I can practice on, a table or a prop like this, or I can use the wall. So I'll show you on the wall. Move this here. Okay. So when we do it on the wall, I'm going to bring my hands so that they are facing out. And I'm going to step out a few, I can step out about maybe, 2-3 feet, or I can go closer to the wall too, if that's too difficult. So hands out, bend the elbows. And what I'm looking at here is that I don't arch the back, right? So it's the micro movement. So I tuck my pelvis and I allow this length, right, coming from the armpits here. So it's also an inner length here where I lift the chest. So I want to practice that. And then I want to have this length in the back that goes all the way through the heel. So I really press the heel down onto the mat. So here we are. So heels down and lifting the chest, tucking. So notice here when you start holding this, if you're pressing more on the toe sides, on the balls of your feet. So press the heel down and then lift the chest here in the front. So lift the chest, and then also that inner lift where if you had this divine hand holding the lungs up, just sort of lifting the chest. Okay. And you can press the navel back here very gently, heels to the mat, navel back and up, lift the chest, but then release the shoulders down so that they're not coming towards your ear. And so you can practice here, for as long as you can, and hold this for a minute. You can step a few feet back. And you can practice this again. So do I have the tendency of arching my back here? Correct that. So in my body, when you watch it, I create an arch in my lower back. So see if that's, kind of what tendency you have. So here I would like to tuck, lengthen through the heel, lift the chest, come into the wall chaturanga. Great way to start seeing where you're holding the tension, if it's here. So lift the chest, and then when you're in that position, hold it for about a minute and see where that energy is just being knotted up. And find the alignment where you can breathe freely. So if I'm here, I notice that, the area right below my shoulders, I collect a lot of tension there. And so I start not being able to breathe so freely here. So if I tuck, I even increase that congestion. And then if I lift my chest enough, I start releasing it. And then having that space where I can have, unrestrained breathing. So how is it affecting my breath, and how can I correct that and learn that alignment here before I go to the floor? Okay, so this is a great way to practice Chaturanga and to start, getting that intelligence of alignment in your particular body and with the tightness and where you're holding the tension and are you holding your breath. So that would be pretty important. Make sure that you're not holding your breath, and you can train, to keep that breath flowing, that energy flowing. That's going to give you the vitality in your pose. So where is it getting stuck? So you can study that on the wall, and also you start building strength there. Okay, so after we do that, we'll go onto the floor. We can also use a block if you need it, if the floor is too much. But let's take a look at that. Okay, so we have, okay, so on the floor here, what I'm going to do is, let's start out with some blocks. So get 2 blocks of the same size. Okay, and actually, we'll do it without the blocks first. So come into your downward dog. Okay, and then into plank, down to Chaturanga, and then upward dog. So we'll do this about maybe 10 times. So downward dog, plank, down to Chaturanga, and then upward dog. Downward dog, plank, Chaturanga. Okay, upward dog. So how do we hold this Chaturanga? So we have to learn how to press the hands back and really ground the feet back. So the way that we'll do this is this. I'm going to come into the wall here, and I'm going to measure the height from my wrist to my shoulder. And it's around, maybe 2 inches above this little outlet here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place some blocks here. And then the height of my feet, so I need a little bit more height here. So this plus the height of my feet is the same height as my shoulder. So if I have the length of my feet here. Okay, so I'm going to do this. And I'm going to place my feet here. And the key to do this exercise properly is the ability to push back with my hand so that I can really lengthen through the heel and dig the heel into the wall. So I have my hands here, and I place my feet here on the wall. I dig my heels into the wall, and I push back with my hand, and then I straighten here for plank. Okay, so really lengthen through the back of the leg and make sure that I'm not arching the back here. So really developing that strength to tuck, lengthen the back through the heel, and then lift the chest. So I'm not rounding my back here. I'm lifting my chest. Okay, so this is a really nice way to start building strength and lengthening the front and lengthening through the heel using the wall here. So maybe do 10 sets of those. And it is important to not build any tension in the eyes, the ears, or the throat. So as you do these, the first few, there's a lot of tension that builds up everywhere. And eventually, as you build a little more strength, you're able to breathe and release that tension in the eyes, the ears, and the throat. All right. So the next step for this would be to lower this height a little bit. So lower it by about half. And then grab your belt and a block. Okay, and we're going to place that belt here around the arms again. And bring the hands around the block here, like we did before. And same thing, bring your feet. And eventually, when you do this, you can remove these these and just have a little marker of where your foot should go. So for this one, I will mark it like this. Right, so I want my feet around here, the bottom of this. It's that the height of your, your heel should be at the height of your elbow. So this is a little bit high. Take it down. So this height plus my foot, my heel, would be at the same height as the top of my shoulder there, around. Okay. So placing your feet against the wall, really digging the heel into the wall, and then lengthening through the fingers like we did in the beginning. Place that foot on the wall. Press the heels back into the wall and come into your Chaturanga here, your modified strengthening Chaturanga. So make sure that, if we're shortening the chest here, lengthen the chest, lift the chest, then lengthen through the heel, tuck the pelvis so that you're not arching the back like this. So really tuck, and then if that's restraining your breath, lengthen and breathe here. Okay. All right. So go ahead and build. You can build strength like that. There's more videos with more detail on how to do these strengthening exercises, but essentially they help a lot. Okay, next thing that we'll do is we'll place these blocks here. And actually, we'll measure so that we're not, we have enough room. So bring my feet, not to the wall, just to the edge of the mat there. And then you can measure where the shoulders go. Measure with the block, the height of the shoulder here, keeping the feet where they are. We're going to come up here. All right. Okay, so place the shoulders on the blocks and then come to your Chaturanga and bring the hands. If they're too far back, it's going to be very difficult. So bring the hands up a little bit and then push up to your downward dog. So downward dog, down to Chaturanga. Okay, again, lift the front of the body, really lengthen through the heel, and come up. Okay, so do these a few times. Lift the chest, lengthen through the heel, and then tuck the pelvis here. Okay. Okay, so that's the work. And then here, if you feel like your, this section is collapsing, go ahead and tuck. So rotate the pelvis this way, lengthen the heel. All right, and then here. Okay, so this is this way of working with Chaturanga. Once you've done it with the blocks a few times, we'll go ahead and move on to, we have a little time left. We have a few minutes left, so we'll work through this one. And those are all really great ways to start learning this length of the chest, length through the back. So you create a balance from front and back so that you have that stability to keep, the normal curvature of the back, not that exaggerated back bend there. Or or a Chaturanga like this. So we have create that balance between the back and the front, and then the ability to breathe through the pose. So releasing any tension in the eyes, the ears, and the throat. Okay, so getting ready for the last exercise that we'll do. What we'll do is we'll lay down here in the front of the body. Bring the hands, you can hold the sides of the mat and you bring the head to the mat. So eventually you can, if someone's there to help you, they can really put a lot of pressure on your hand. It really helps this pose. If you don't have someone there, go ahead and grab the sides of the mat and you're going to come up to downward dog, keeping your head on the mat the whole time or close to the mat. Okay, so grab onto the mat and I'll show you. Grab onto the mat, head on the mat, And we're going to come up to the downward dog without moving your feet. So, that's a little bit far, but okay. So here's the downward dog. And we're on the mat here. Okay, like that. So one more time. Come up. Okay, versus coming up by pushing up like this. So we're coming up here, like that. Okay, so give that a try. Do that a few times. And then to finish off, we'll just do 2 or 3 rounds of downward dog, upward dog, plank, and chaturanga. So go ahead and get onto your mat. Come over to downward dog and plank, chaturanga. Use the this different body shapes that you've learned. Upward dog, downward dog, plank, down to chaturanga, and press the hands back so the heels can extend back. And upward dog and downward dog. Okay, and then you can come back down to child's pose and take a little breather. This is a very fun practice. Takes a while, and it's not linear, so some days it'll be a lot more intense than others. So take it easy. Really work on your wrists and your shoulders so that you don't create an injury. So working on the wall is very important, although it seems so simple. Build that strength, and then slowly make your way into a fun, healthy practice. So I hope you enjoy it. Leave me any comments if you have questions. See you next week. Thank you so much.